So we're having some problems with our toilet. It keeps running all the time, so I think the fill mechanism needs to be replaced.
So once I got the lid off, you can see the water level is rising in the toilet. And once it gets to a certain point, that lever is supposed to pop up and then shut the water off. But it's not doing that. It's just continuing to fill. So what I have to do is replace the fill mechanism. As you can see by the hose there, it's still filling even though it should have shut off by now. So it's just filling and filling and filling. First thing we're going to do is turn the water off. So there's a valve on the wall behind the toilet. You just turn it off. Opposite direction of what it is, it should be fully on normally. Next, I'm going to flush the toilet to get most of the water out of the tank. Now, you're not going to get all of the water out of the tank, but that's okay. Next, we're going to take the hose off, but let's throw down a towel first and a little plastic bucket to kind of catch as much water as we can. Minimal mess, right? So once we've got the bucket in place, then we can just disconnect the hose from the tank of the toilet. So you can just twist that off by hand. Comes right off. And then for the lower portion, I'm going to grab a crescent wrench and I'm going to use that to disconnect the bottom part of the pipe from the valve. So you just turn that off, it comes loose pretty easy. I'm going to finish unloosening it by hand. And then there's something I want to show you here once I've got it off. The hose itself has been on there for probably 10 years or so. You can see inside the hose, you're starting to see some calcium buildup and mineral buildup. So I'm going to replace the hose as well. Next, we're going to take off the fill mechanism. So we have to loosen the nut off underneath the tank. Once we get it loosened off, we can just spin the nut off the rest of the way so that we can get the mechanism out. All right, mechanism's going to come free now. Yeah, we just disconnect the hose to the right and then pull the whole thing out. And you can see some water going down into the pail beneath now, but water was left in the tank. So that's important to have a pail there or something. And I'm just going to put this aside for the moment into the tub. We do need it a little bit later. We're going to be using this toilet fill valve. It's a universal one, pretty easy to install. You know, there's only really a couple of things to do, basically 3 steps here, 1, 2, 3. So what we need to do is compare the two valves. So we have the new one and the old one, and we want to make sure they're at the same height, like the same length. The one on the left is the new one, the one on the right is the old one, and the one on the left actually turns. You can make it taller or shorter just by turning that bottom portion. All right, next we got to put the fill hose on, so it's much easier to do this while it's still out rather than try and do it once it's in the tank. So you just push it on, give it a twist, and then there's a clip that goes on the other end. Again, you just push this on so it's all the way on. You can see there, right there, yeah, it's all the way on. Next, we're going to put the mechanism back into the toilet. Now, first we got to put the little clip on, the fill hose there. Now, there's 2 ways to put it on, and right now I'm trying to put it on backwards, and that doesn't really work. So I'm going to flip it around here, and you'll see it'll just slide right on. All right, there we go. And then I just put the fill mechanism through the hole, right there. Now from the underneath, I'm going to take the new nut. This one is you can twist with your fingers, and you just line it up and thread it back on. Give it a good spin so it tightens up, and then tighten it up as much as you can by hand. Don't need to use a pair of pliers on this, just tighten it by hand. All right. So once you got it tight, there we go. Next, we're going to put the hose on. So I've got the new hose and the old hose. I'm just kind of measuring to make sure it's the right length. I'm going to put the bottom part on first, and I'm going to put this on hand tight. I don't need to over tighten it because that hose needs to move a little bit while I'm attaching it to the toilet. So again, just put it hand tight. Now the other side goes to the bottom of the fill mechanism of the toilet. And just going to reach around here, make it a little easier to get it lined up properly. And that just spins on as well. Again, hand tight. You don't need a pair of pliers to tighten this up. There we go. All right. Now I'm going to turn the water back on and fill up the toilet. Now I'm going to pull the spray out and dump it in the tub for now. And I'm going to just wipe things up underneath here, and I just want to run my hand along here just to make sure there's no leaks. So the valve felt wet around the valve. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to grab the crescent wrench again, and I'm just going to tighten it up. Because remember before I only made it hand tight. I'm going to tighten it up with the crescent wrench so we don't have any water drips or leaks. I'm just going to hold this hose so it doesn't twist up on me while I'm tightening the bottom to the valve. All right, all nice and dry, everything dry, no leaks. So as the toilet's filling, it shuts itself off just about half an inch below the top of that pipe. So I'm going to flush it and let it fill back up again and make sure it stops at the right spot. If not, a gray circle on the left-hand side, you can twist that up and down to adjust the fill height. Now I'm also going to check again and make sure we don't have any leaks here. It's all looking pretty good. All right, everything worked great. So the only thing left to do is put the lid back on and get rid of the out of service sticker, and we're back in business, ready to use.